This one should be pretty straightforward. If you recall, previously we could transfer items to the chest, but not from the chest. So for example, we click transfer item from our inventory, and we try to transfer it back, nothing happens. So we do have to make a couple little changes to both the inventory element blueprint as well as our actual inventory code here. So if we look at how we currently transfer items, our transfer item function takes in a container as a parameter. Well, we can set this up to where it takes in an actor instead. So that way we can make it a little more universal and not be just restricted to just transferring to a container with this function. So we can go ahead and do that now. So in the inventory.h, transfer item, going to change a storage container to a actor and call it to actor. Go ahead and replace the server function call arguments as well. Okay. And change in the parameters to actor. Alright, now, instead of doing this way, first off, let's see if to actor is valid. We need to cast it. So this is where we kind of determine what it is. Like if it's a player, we cast it to a survival character. If it's a container, we cast it to a container. So if a storage container equals cast to a storage container from to actor. And this should already be set up. And we're going to do the exact same thing again. But going to make this an else if and change a storage container to a survival character. And container to just character. They're going to leave the name as C inventory. This is not set up. Get inventory component. It's under the protected section. Click and drag it. I'm going to move this down to make it public. And then this should be good. Okay, go ahead and build. Still. Should. Oh, let's get inventory comp. Let's change that to component. And find out wherever it is. And then build. Alrighty, now if we for instance try to recompile this, we're going to have an error. Going to point to this node here, refresh node, you'll see to actor. Well, since this is just our transfer to container, we can go that route. There's another one. Can I refresh it? Nope. Right, so it's going to be get inventory component. I was hoping that would auto do it itself, but I guess not. Now we can check and make sure it still works. Press game didn't crash this time. Right, click it. Transfers over just fine. So we are good to go. Now we should be able to close that for now. Let's open up inventory storage and inventory element. I've already cleared out the B transfer button since that was just previous crap that we had set to drop that we weren't using. So inventory element. Currently, see we have this variable here, parent reference. So when we click on the item that we want to, transfer, use stuff, we set the parent reference. Well, our parent reference would be our inventory UI. And then we have a function on there called setSelectedItem, which sets the item reference. Currently, we don't have that on our storage. So we're going to have to set this up so if we click on it and the parent, parent reference or the storage reference, or the reference to the storage widget is valid, we're going to set the selected item on the one that's valid. So that'll be pretty straightforward. So actually, just to make it a little bit cleaner when we start, go ahead and get rid of all this. We're going to just check the item reference first. Right, so if that's valid, we check if the parent reference is valid. And if it is, we will set selected item. Whoops. And if it's not valid, we will get our storage reference and do set selected item on that. So we need to make a variable for it. Actually, I just copy this, copy the previous one. Okay, there we go. Right click, duplicate. Change it to inventory storage and just call it parent reference storage. Alright, so let's get that. Do a valid check. Alright, so if parent reference is invalid, meaning it's false, we're going to check and see if our storage reference is valid. So if it is, we're going to set selected item and pass in the item as the reference again. And that looks bad. And that's good enough. Alright. So now we need to change wherever these inventory elements are being created. So that would be the populate inventory, create valid. And it's already updated. Yeah. Move this down a little bit. Alright, so we need to set this as a reference to self. So get reference to self and pass it in. We gotta do the same thing for the inventory UI. That should actually be good. Never mind. Alright, so yeah, we compiled and saved them all. Alright, they're happy. So now we can check when the B transfer button is clicked. I want to check and see if the item reference is in fact valid when we click on the item, meaning that it worked. And we're going to have to do this check anyways, so why not? So print a string for true. I'm going to print valid. Better yet, just print the item name. It's false. And we'll just print hello if it's false. Okay. Alright, it prints out the health. And if I select nothing, yep, alright. So it is printing out what we need it to do. So from here, we have a reference to the item, so we can pretty much begin transferring. Now, there's going to be a slight problem if we go over to our inventory component here. When we call transfer item, this is being called initially on the client. So this is fine when we're transferring from ourselves to a what's it called? To like a chest or something like that, because we own the inventory component of ourselves. Like when we transfer from ourselves, we can call server functions from it, no problem. because we are the owning actor. But if we try to go from the chest to ourselves, we don't own the chest. The server owns the chest, so we can't call these server functions on it, which means we can't directly call transfer item. So in place of that, we're going to simply write another function, but this one's going to be ran on our own inventory, and it's going to go to the container. And so it's going to go from our own inventory to the server. The server's then going to go like through the container and transfer. That makes sense, I hope. So we can make yeah, this one will be fine in the protected section. So let's see here. Yeah. So first off, make it blueprint callable. Void. Oh, let's add server and everything else. So server, reliable with validation. Trying to think what to call it. So server underscore receive item should be fine. Should take in. We can get access to our own ourselves, so that's not a problem. Yeah, so we'll get the owner, and the CPP will get the owner, and if it's a survival character, that'll be the only time we continue on with the rest of the code in the function. There we will get our open container, check if that's valid. If that's valid, we will then call the transfer item function on it and pass in the reference to ourselves. Right. Yeah, that'll work. So class a pickup item. That should be the only thing we have to pass in. Our validate and our implementation. All right, let's create definitions for both of these. We'll set it. All right, so they are here. So if item, return true, else return false. So if the item's valid, return true, otherwise return false. Okay, so from here, crap, I completely forgot what I literally just said. Right, let's actually move these up to wherever we have our transfer functions, or make it a little nice. Yeah, do that below it. So what I said, we need to. Alright, so get our owner. Wait, no, we want to pass in. Crap. Alright, yeah. So if a survival character equals cast a survival character from get owner, then we continue. Alrighty, so we have a reference to our character. Now if a storage container equals character get opened. Alright, I guess that is protected as well and not public, which it is. Alright, let's move it down to make it public. Get open container. Then we can go from container, get inventory component, and it should always have an inventory component, so I guess we don't really need to check it. Transfer item, then the to actor being character, pickup being the item. Oh, it's a pickups, not pickup. Oops. Sees. Alrighty. Now we should be good. If that's the case, oh, what now? Okay, that was just IntelliSense then. Alright, so we transfer item, the to character being ourselves, then the item reference. Should be good to go. I kind of want to print out a log just in case. Transferring item to character. Just make sure we also get that far. Alright, so get player character, cast to survival character. Get inventory component and receive item. Item being that. Okay. Let's see what the odds are that this is actually going to work first try. Transfer, transfer, transferring item to character. So now when I close it, reopen it. Alright, cool. So we do in fact have it. I can't remember if I set up our drop function or not. Okay, we did. Alright, so that's working. It's kind of weird. Alright, let's go ahead and refresh. What all did I do to do that? Use drop transferred item. Is that all it's called? Guess so. That's set to used or dropped. Is there any difference? Nope. So I guess we're fine to call it. Alright, let's make sure that works. And click, and it does not refresh. So I guess we have to call that on both. Transfer. So we call it add item on the storage, which simply, I think that just added it to the client version of the array. Yep. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make that on our inventory UI as well. Let's make a new add item function. Make it take in a pickup. That's not what I pressed. Object reference. Pass it in, look them up. Alright. So we remove it from our own, which refreshes our own as well. Then we simply call it add item and set the item reference to null. Oh, duh, here it is. So this is our inventory UI widget. Now call add item. And the item, item being the item reference. And then, yeah, we just simply set item reference to null. Alright, let's see if that works. Which it does not. Getting to this point. Check print string. UI widget invalid. If it's false, which I have a feeling, I don't remember if we ever set it or not. Alright, UI widget is invalid. So let's see how we create the widgets. Create the storage widget. Okay, yeah, we don't have any sort of way to reference the storage widget. So we need to pretty much do that. Alright, so let's make a... That's already set, so make inventory UI widget instance editable and expose it on spawn. Now in our inventory base. So we're going to need to make a function on here, on the inventory storage widget, to set it afterwards, after we create our inventory. So let's make a new function. Set inventory UI widget. Make it take in the widget. So inventory UI object reference. Call it inventory widget. And set the inventory UI widget to that. Compile, save. Now in the inventory base, go from the inventory storage widget. We can set, so we need to do a valid check first again. So we can set inventory UI widget. Let's actually just literally clean this up. Give it an output. Inventory. This one's storage. Give it a reference to the inventory storage widget. And do the same thing to our create inventory. But with inventory UI. And compile and save. Now we can simply get rid of that. We can go off of the output, which I forgot to rename. Inventory storage widget. Okay, so if the storage widget is valid, much neater. If it's valid, then we will set inventory UI widget to our inventory UI widget, which should pretty much be valid no matter what. And now I think we're good to go. It should no longer print that message out. Should. Oh, yeah, it worked. So back and forth on the client. Now let's just test real quickly with 2. Yeah, I'll go ahead and load it up another one. So transferred on client 1. Make sure it's in the inventory. Let's grab it. should no longer be there. And this guy should be able to drop it. Yep, so we're transferring to and from the inventories of the storage to the player's own inventory. Cool. It's gone surprisingly smooth so far. So, I'm not sure how long this video has been, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. Do we have anything else? Yeah, we have. I'm debating on if I even want to have a use button on it. I just don't think there's much of a point for having that actually on the inventory. I think that should be something you put in like your own and then use it, but I don't know. We'll see. Actually, yeah. We don't even have anything set up for that, do we? Yeah, we do. Oh, ever... I don't think that's even set up to work, is it? Let's look in the log real quick. Because I think we just copied that over from the inventory UI. It should give me an error. Yeah, and so no error, just it's not working. So I'm thinking about, yeah, we'll just go ahead and actually remove that. If that's a feature that ends up being requested, then I'll end up putting it back. But it's pretty similar concept to what we did with the transfer. So let's go ahead and delete our use button. And we can reset the grid panel. Actually, you should fill it. Screw it. We'll deal with that when we polish it up. So I'm going to leave it there. Let's do a quick reiteration of what we did. So when our inventory gets created, we check if our storage widget is valid. If it is, then we call our set inventory UI widget, which sets the inventory of our own, that widget, to be accessible from our inventory storage widget here. So that's just for when we go to refresh and all that kind of stuff. Get rid of that. So then when you click on a item that we have in our storage container, we do pretty much what we did with the inventory UI. We check to make sure the reference is valid, so we have in fact clicked on an item. Then we go from our character's inventory component, and we call our server receive item function. Now this simply checks, make sure we are in fact a character and valid. Then we check and make sure we do in fact have access to a storage container and that it's valid. And if that's the case, we get access to because remember, we are on the server, we get access to the storage container's inventory. We call it transfer item through the server. And if you recall, because as a client, we do not own the chest, the server does. So we cannot call server or RPC functions on that chest because we do not own them. We do not own that actor. That's just how Unreal works. So that's why we're going through the server first. So then we simply call transfer item. And if you recall, the parameters are the to actor, meaning the actor we're sending the item to, and the item we're sending. So that simply check if make sure the actor is valid. Then we get access, well, we check if it's a container. If it is a container, we do exactly what we did before. We get the container's inventory, and we simply add it to that inventory and remove it from our own. Now if we're sending it to a player, we check and make sure it's player first, get access to the inventory, add it to the inventory of the player, and remove it from the chest. So, pretty straightforward. Then we simply just refresh like before. I can get rid of that. And that's all. I will see you in the next one, where, I don't know, I'm probably going to be something not inventory related, which I'm happy about, because this was getting kind of annoying. So, I'll see you then.